limits. We want to answer your questions about business, life, and everything in between. Send your questions to ask at beckandliz.com. That's ask at beckandliz.com. So, our question today, Elizabeth, is regarding some conversation we had with Lisa and Lindsay from Fred Astaire Studios about self expression. And I guess my curiosity is what prevents us as women from fully expressing who we are? I know personally, I edit myself. I hold back my opinion. I hold back my bodacious laugh. I make sure not to interject in certain situations. What causes us to hold back and not fully express all that we are?
That is a big question. And
It
I'm
is.
sitting here thinking about it. And my friend Allison and I talk about those women who are the women who don't hold back enough or are told we don't hold back enough. I have evolved more into that than I used to be one who held everything back. Therefore, my internal dialogue is constantly running. And I'll tell a story and I'll say, well, and I said this and I thought that. And my husband's like, did you really say that? I'm like, no, I didn't really say that. Of course I didn't say that. So he's like, well, how am I supposed to know what you really said and what was your internal dialogue? And so I'm sitting here trying to figure out why is that we do, because clearly I still hold some of that back. But I think it's because when you put yourself all out there, you're described as a woman who's aggressive or bitchy, or even if it's not negative, but if you are all out, then you're described in negative ways. And I don't think it's appreciated in a lot of situations where you're around mostly men.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's an interesting thing to try to unravel, because I don't actually completely know the answer. Do you?
No, that's why I asked you, silly goose. But I do think it is traditionally considered more feminine to be demure
Mhm.
and to be more soft and quiet and not to interject our opinions. And even if we do interject our opinions, it's done in a very soft way. Let's just say that. But I think so. Yeah, I think there's a gender thing with it. And then I think there's the whole I want to be accepted, I want to be loved, I want to be approved of. And if I state my opinion or I fully extend my arms and I self express or
Mhm.
whatever it is, that it'll be too much, right? That too much. And once you're in that too much category, you could be excluded from certain groups or certain situations. So I think at the core, it's almost human nature. It's a survival instinct almost, is you don't want to be excluded, right? You don't want to be rejected, especially from a group. So
Mhm.
we do hold back a little bit. So we get accepted, we get approved of, we get loved, we don't get rejected. So I think some of it's a survival instinct and some of it is just programming as women that we shouldn't be too much and we shouldn't speak up too often or too loudly or with too much vim and vigor. So
Mhm.
I thought it was cool though that there's other ways to self-express besides just the words.
Absolutely. Physical, the dance as a method of self-expression is very freeing and very liberating. And I think that's why people who do it love it so much, because there is no too much.
Mm-hmm.
There's not enough more often than there's too much when it comes to dance. And I was also thinking while you were talking too, when I was dating between my husbands, which sounds so funny to say, um, of women being afraid to say exactly what they want. And when I was dating that time, when you're younger, it's a little different. But when I was dating that time, I didn't have time. I had 3 little kids. I didn't want to waste time. And so I began asking people, if they would check off something on the online profile, don't drink at all. I would ask, is that because you have a problem? Because for me, that wasn't something that I wanted to experience. And so instead of just sort of hedging around that question, I would just ask directly. And I don't think it was a popular thing, but I was to an age and a level of self-respect that I had been through a lot, and I knew what I didn't want to go through. And I became more empowered to just say, my time is so valuable to me right now because I have all these responsibilities with work and kids, that I'm okay with asking that question now.
Right.
You know, and I was in my mid to late 30s during that time. And I didn't do it right off the bat, but the more I dated, the more I was like, I'm not wasting time on people who I know I'm not going to be compatible with. And that's okay. And I think that applies to every relationship you have, whether it's a job or a coworker or a boss or an employee. There are certain deal breakers we all have in every relationship that we have. And are we okay expressing those? You know, and when do there's the ages of life, do you ever get okay with completely just saying exactly what you want?
Ooh, does that mean I have to tell somebody not to wear white tennis shoes to a date?
Or if that's a deal breaker, he can wear the tennis shoes. You just don't have to date him.
There you go. I don't know. Just
depends on how amenable he is to your opinions. If he doesn't care what shoes he wears and you present him with a new pair of shoes and say, hey, I like these a lot better, and he's like, great.
All right.
Not a problem then.
Thank you.
He's going to get a little irritated with that. Then there's your answer.
Very funny. But you're better at self-expression than I am, which makes me wonder. Some of it, of course, it could be the age difference, the generational difference, and what I was taught was okay for women, and what you were taught. Also, a cultural difference, being born and raised in Switzerland, you born and raised in the U.S. of A. So it's kind of interesting to see if this self-expression issue, how broad it is. You know, is it in a boardroom? Is it with our spouses? Is it with our friends? But clearly it is something we're all learning to get better at.
Yeah. And you know, there's a reason you can't do it respectfully and still state what you want or what you expect. So I think it is an interesting question. What plays into that?
Yeah, maybe
part of it is your personality that you're born with.
Personality.
Some of it is external, you know, nature versus nurture. How much is nurture?
And self-confidence. So I say we put it out to our audience. What do you think has women hold back fully expressing all they are?
And how do you overcome it? I think that's
a good point. And how do you overcome it?
Yeah. Or do you want to?
Yeah.
So many questions. We need
so many questions.
Help us out.
Not enough time. So thank you everyone for joining us today, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships are forged. This is Beck and Liz signing off and wishing you another purpose-filled and profitable week.